Good morning everyone, my name is Bart and welcome to the second video in my VBA series. Today we're taking a closer look at variables. As said in my previous video, variables are one of the four cornerstones in VBA. Note that this video assumes no prior knowledge of either variables or VBA. Firstly, I'll explain the concept of variables from multiple angles. Afterwards, I will go through some examples and talk about data types and writing style. Lastly, I will go through the major points of why we are using variables. The question of why we are using variables might not make much sense if you don't know what they are. So let's start with what a variable is. As I said earlier, I'll explain the same thing in three different ways just to make sure that it sinks in well. 1. A variable is a box. You can put pretty much anything in there, for example, a number or a text. Think of a big box on which you write on the side in a thick pen the word amount. In this box you can store now any amount you like. The only rule is that you can store just one amount at a time. 2. A variable holds a value. Just like a cell in your worksheet can hold a value, so also a variable can hold a value. For example, cell A1 can equal 10,000 and a variable named amount can hold 10,000. Note that amount is just a name that I give to this variable. You can call it whatever you like. 3. Think of your mathematics class when you were around 12 years old. Take these two examples. X equals 2 plus 3 and x equals 9 minus 2. You know what x is in both cases, it's 5 and 7. Nevertheless, we use in both cases the letter x. Will anything change if we were to replace the x by amount? Does it matter at all what letters we are using? No, it doesn't. So we might say the following. Amount equals 2 plus 3. Thus, amount is 5. I hope the concept of variables makes sense. Now let's take a look at some basic examples. Let's open Excel as I already did, create a new workbook, and then go to Developer, click Visual Basic, and we end up in the Visual Basic editor. Before we can really start, I will add a couple of things which I will explain in a different video. So for now, just follow these steps. Right mouse click on this workbook, go to Insert, and click Module. Now write sub test and click enter. Let's write the example of the amount. Amount equals 2 plus 3. Now before we can use the variable amount, we will need to tell VBA that we do plan on using it. So on top of our program, just below sub test, we will write dim amount as currency. There are a few things that I can say about these four words, but I will try to keep it brief. First off, dim. This will allow you to use the variable within the current sub-procedure, in this case sub-test. Amount is how we name this variable. You can write pretty much anything, just try to use a descriptive name. S indicates what data type amount a variable is, and it is a currency. In order to help ourselves, I suggest we write cAmount. Let's see what our variable contains. If you don't have the immediate window yet, which is here at the bottom, press Ctrl G or go to View and search the immediate window over here. Now below our cAmount equals 2 plus 3, we will write debug.print and cAmount. Let's run our first code by pressing F5. In the immediate window you will see the result of cAmount, which is 5. This should make clear that the 5 is the content of cAmount. Does this make sense to you? Let's make a real-world example. I want to calculate the total gross amount. So I will need 3 variables. Do you know which ones? I will use cNetto, cGross, and cVAT. As you can see, I always declare my variables at the beginning of the program. That's step 1. Step 2 is I give my variable some content. In this case, let's say the netto amount is 1000 equals 1000. VAT is 21% and the brutto amount, or I should say gross, I suppose, is what we're going to calculate. So in here we write gross equals cNetto times 1 plus cVAT, and we will return cGross. Let's run the code and see what it brings. 1210. Are you still following everything? If so, great, we're almost there, and here's a cookie. Let's return more than just a number. Instead of debug.print cGross, we will write debug.print, open the quotes, write gross amount equals space, we end the quotes, write the end sign, and we keep the cGross. Let's press F5 and see what it returns. Gross amount equals 1210. Can we put all of this in a variable? Of course we can. Let's create a new variable, but this time it won't be a currency. So we will write dim sOutput as string. The data type string means text. Just above debug.print, we will write sOutput equals, and we just copy paste or cut and paste from our debug.print, and we write sOutput behind debug and print. Let's press F5 and see what it returns. It returns the same. Last point of this video is, why are we using variables? Can't we just write 1000 times 1 plus 0.22 and get the same result? Yes, we can. But there are some reasons why variables are useful. First off, because of a clear writing style. Our code will be shorter and easier to read. From our example, it might not be clear because it seems like we are using more code, but in bigger projects you will very quickly see that using variables is actually quite helpful. The netto amount that we are using, we wrote directly in our VBA code. Usually you would get something from Excel. Now, getting this data from Excel would require a long list of objects to get to the right cell and retrieve the value from it. Using variables will make this a lot shorter, easier, and better to understand. The last one is also really important, easier to read. Here we can read gross amount equals netto times 1 plus the VAT. It's not only about how long our code is, but also what it's telling you. Let's take cGross. The first letter informs you about the data type. C comes from currency. Whatever comes next, in this case gross, describes what we are dealing with. Not a customer name, not a payment date, not the netto amount of VAT, but the gross amount. Second reason why we use variables is the mobility of your data. What do I mean by mobility? A, you can easily send your variables all over your code, and B, any sort of handling of your data will go faster. For examples, calculations. Instead of making calculations in your Excel sheet, you can make the calculations in VBA and drop the result in whatever cell you would like. The goal of this video wasn't to be practical, but to help you understand what a variable is. One of our 4 cornerstones is covered. Now keep going and soon we will get more practical. In the next video we will take a closer look at loops. I'll always try to provide you with some data to work with and sample code whenever it's sensible to do so. So for now, have a good day and I will see you later.